Good day and welcome to another session of Larteen Math Drive tutorials. So in the part 1 of the calculator basics tutorials, we learned about how to activate the calculator keys, and we also talked about how to use all the keys on the scientific calculator. So if you know you haven't watched this yet, the link is in the description box so you can check it out. So this video is the part 2 of the calculator basics tutorials, and we are going to discuss about the menus on the scientific calculator. So we basically have two menus on the scientific calculator. We have what we call the mode menu, and we also have what we call the setup menu. So now, let us discuss about the mode menu. To activate the mode menu, you simply tap on the mode button. So this is the mode button. So if I tap on the mode button, the menu that appears is what we call the mode menu. So how do we use the mode menu? And what is the essence of the mode menu? So the mode menu specifies the calculation mode. It allows us to determine the type of mathematical calculation that we want to perform. For instance, if I want to simplify expressions, then I will have to choose the first option on the mode menu, which is the COMP. So COMP is an abbreviation for computation. Similarly, if I want to solve problems involving equations, then I will have to set my calculator to the fifth item on the mode menu by simply tapping on the option 5. So the option 5 is the EQN, which is an abbreviation for equation. And also, if I want to solve problems involving vectors, then I choose the option 8. So that is basically how we use the mode menu. So when we check the mode menu, we have 8 items on the mode menu. Now, let us talk about these items one after the other, starting from the first option. So for the first item on the mode menu, we have COMP, and COMP is an abbreviation for computation. So this particular item on the mode menu is the calculator's default, and we use this particular items when we are performing general calculations, that is, if we are simplifying expressions. So if you are trying to simplify any expression of any nature, then you have to set your calculator to the first item on the mode menu. So now, let us move on to the second item on the mode menu. So for the second item on the mode menu, we have CMPLX, and CMPLX is an abbreviation for complex. So we basically use this particular item to perform computations involving complex numbers. That is, if you want to add two complex numbers, if you want to subtract one number from the other, if you want to find the argument and the principal of a complex number, that is where you set your calculator to the second item on the mode menu. So let us choose the option 2 and let's see what is there. So I simply tap on 2. This means I have entered the complex numbers calculation mode, which has been indicated on top of the calculator. So after I have entered this calculation mode, it means any computation that I make should be a complex number computation. So we will be talking more about this in our subsequent videos, so make sure you don't forget to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned. Now, let us move on to the third item on the mode menu. So for the third item on the mode menu, we have STAT, and STAT is an abbreviation for statistics, and we basically use these items to perform computations that involve statistics. So let me choose the option 3 and let us explore this particular item on the mode menu. So STAT is the option 3 on the mode menu, so I simply tap on 3. So if I tap on 3, we can see that we also have another menu in this particular item. So we use these items to perform statistical calculations. For instance, if we want to find the mean, the standard deviation, the variance, which we'll be discussing more about in our subsequent videos. We also use these particular items to perform calculations involving linear regression. So single linear regression, multiple linear regression. And we also use these particular items when we want to perform calculations involving sequence and series. So we use the second item to perform calculations involving arithmetic progression, whereas we use the sixth item to perform calculations involving geometric progression. So we are going to dive deeper and discuss more about all these items in our subsequent video. So make sure you don't forget to subscribe to the channel and stay tuned. So now, let us move on to the fourth item on the mode menu. So for the fourth item on the mode menu, we have base n. And we use this particular item on the mode menu to perform computations involving number bases. That is, if I want to convert from one base to the other. For instance, if I want to convert a particular number from base 2 to base 10. So that is where I use the fourth item on the mode menu, which is the base n. Now, let us move on to the fifth item on the mode menu. So for the fifth item on the mode menu, we have EQN. And EQN is an abbreviation for equations. And we basically use this item on the mode menu to perform calculations involving equation. So now let us choose the fifth item and explore this particular item together. So the equation is the fifth item on the mode menu. So I simply tap on 5. So the first and second item is used to solve system of linear equation. So the option 1 is used to solve simultaneous equations involving two variables. The option 2 is used for solving simultaneous equations involving three variables. When we check the option 3, we have ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And that is the general form of a quadratic equation. So we use the option 3 for solving problems involving quadratic equation, whereas the option 4 is used for making computations involving cubic equations. So we are going to talk more about all these items in our subsequent video. We are going to dive deeper into them step by step and learn about how to use all these tools on the calculator. So if you know you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel by the end of this video. Let us move on to the sixth item on the mode menu. So for the sixth item on the mode menu, we have matrix, and we use this particular item to perform calculations involving matrices. That is when we want to add two matrices, when we want to subtract one matrix from the other, if you want to transpose a matrix, if you want to find the determinant of a matrix, if you also want to find the inverse of a matrix. So that is where we make use of the sixth item on the mode menu, which is matrix. So for the seventh item on the mode menu, we have table, and this particular calculation mode is used to perform calculations involving functions. And it also helps when we are trying to generate our x and y values for our graph work. And it can also be used to perform calculations involving limits. So this particular item has a lot of uses, which includes some advanced mathematical concepts that we will be discussing in our subsequent videos. So make sure you don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So now let us move on to the last item on the mode menu. So for the last item on the mode menu, we have vector. And this particular item is basically used to perform computations involving vectors. That is, if you want to add two vectors, if you want to subtract one vector from the other, if you want to multiply two vectors, if you want to find the angle between two vectors, when you also want to find the dot product of two vectors. So that is where you make use of the eighth item on the mode menu. So that is all for the mode menu. Now, let us talk about the setup menu. So the setup menu is located just beside the mode menu. So there is the setup menu, and it is yellow in color, which means if you want to activate the setup menu, you will have to use the shift key to activate it by simply tapping on shift and then the mode menu. So when we use this particular combination, the setup menu appears. And what do we use the setup menu for? So as its name goes, setup, which means it is the settings of the calculator. So we use this particular item to make various settings on our calculator. For instance, if you want to adjust the calculator's brightness, if you want to adjust the calculator's contrast, if you also want to set the calculator to display all its answers in mixed fraction form, so that is where we use the setup menu. If you also want to set the calculator to display all its answers in a particular number of decimal places or significant figures, so that is where we make use of the setup menu. So when we check the setup menu too, we have 8 items on the setup menu. So we are going to talk about these items one after the other, starting from the first option. So for the first option, we have MTHIO. So nothing will basically happen when we tap on the first item on the setup menu. So now let us move on to the second item on the setup menu. So for this particular item, we have line IO. And before that, let me make this particular demonstration. So on our calculator default, if I want to input a particular fraction, let us say 1 out of 2. So when I input that particular fraction, 1, then I tap on the division sign, then I tap on 2. The calculator will display the results as if it is in a particular textbook. What happens if I change the calculator setup to the line IO mode? So when you change the calculator setup to the line IO mode, all the results will be displayed in a linear mode. So now I want to input that same fraction, which is 1 out of 2. So I simply tap on 1, then I tap on the division sign. So you can realize that now the fraction sign didn't appear, but rather it appeared as a comma-like symbol. So that is another representation of the fraction sign on the calculator screen. So that is basically the use of the line IO mode. So it converts all the results and the computations that you'll be making into the calculator in a linear format. let us move on to the third, fourth, and fifth item on the setup menu. So for the third, fourth, and fifth item on the setup menu, we have degrees, radians, and gradient. And this particular item is basically used to convert one from the other. So let us say I have a particular result which is in degrees, and I want to convert it into gradient. So and that is where I make use of this particular item. That is the option 3 and the option 4. So we use them to convert from one to the other. So if I want to convert from gradients to radians, if I want to convert from radians to degrees, and also if I want to convert from degrees to gradients, so that is where I make use of these 3 items. And we basically use this particular setup to perform computations involving trigonometry. And also when we are making some calculations involving angles, that is where we make use of these particular items on the calculator screen. So now let us move on to the 6th item on the setup menu. So for the 6th item on the setup menu, we have fix. And this particular item is basically used to convert the calculator's result to a specified number of decimal places that I have specified. So let us say I want to simplify the fraction 7 out of 8 and leave my answer in 2 decimal places. So what I have to do is to simply enter the fraction into the calculator. So I tap on 7, I tap on the division sign, then I tap on 8. So I press on equal to give me the result. So if you want to convert this particular fraction to decimal, you simply tap on SD. So if I tap on SD, the calculator gives me the answer as 0.875. But I want to leave my answer in 2 decimal places. So this is where the use of the fix button comes into place. So what I have to do is to simply enter my setup mode by pressing on Shift and the mode button. And then I choose the option 6, which is the fix. So if I choose the option 6, the calculator gives me a particular range, which signifies the number of decimal places that you want your calculator to leave the answer in. So in my turn, I want to leave the results in 2 decimal places. So what I have to do is to simply tap on 2. So I simply tap on 2. So let me tap on SD for the calculator to convert the result into decimals. So have you seen that the calculator has converted it into 2 decimal places? So 0.875 is the same as 0.88 in 2 decimal places. So this is not restricted to only 2 decimal places. So if you also want to leave it in 3 decimal places, 4 decimal places, or any other decimal place of your choice, then you specify it in accordance to the range that the calculator has given. So now let us move on to the 7th item on the setup menu. So for the 7th item on the setup menu, we have SCI. And SCI is an abbreviation for scientific notation. And we basically use this particular item on the setup menu to convert our results to a specified number of significant figures. And we also use it when we are performing computations involving standard form. We'll be talking more about this in our subsequent videos, so make sure you don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So now, let us move on to the last item on the setup menu. So for the last item on the setup menu, we have norm. And the norm is an abbreviation for normal. And we basically use this item on the setup menu to convert results that has been given in exponential form to their normal form. So let me elaborate our understanding with an example. So let us say that I want to make the calculation 0.0003 times 5. So I input 0.003 times 5. Then I tap on equal to. So if you want to convert it into decimal, you simply tap on SD. So if you convert it into decimal, you can realize that the calculator has given the result in an exponential form, which is 1.5 times 10 raised to the power negative 3. And let us say I do not know how to convert it into its normal form. I want the calculator to do that for me. Then how do I do that? So that is where the use of the scientific notation comes into place. So what I have to do is to simply enter my setup menu by tapping on Shift and then Mode. So afterwards, I choose option 8, which is norm. So when we check the norm, it has given a range from 1 to 2. So the calculator default is the norm 1, which mostly gives results in exponential form. But what if we do not want the results in exponential form, but rather we want to convert it into its normal form? So that is where we use the norm 2. So we have the result 1.5 times 10 raised to the power negative 3. And I want to convert it into its normal form. So I simply choose the second option, so which is option 2. So I tap on 2. So after I have tapped on 2, the calculator will convert it into its normal form. So I tap on SD for the calculator to convert it into decimals. So this has been given as 0.0015. So that is basically how we make use of the norm button on the setup menu. So we have talked about the two main menus on the calculator, but these are not the only menus on the calculator. So we can also activate another menu by simply tapping on the HYP. And when we tap on the HYP, this particular menu contains a list of trigonometric identities. So these are actually advanced trigonometric identities that we'll be making use of in our subsequent video. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and stay tuned. And we basically use these trigonometric ratios when we are into advanced study of mathematics, engineering, and other mathematical courses. We can also activate other menus on a calculator after we have entered a particular calculation mode. So when we check the alternate function keys from 1 up to 9. So when we check the 1, its alternate function key is statistics/distribution. 2, its alternate function key is complex. For 3, we have base. All these buttons are also menus on a calculator, but they can only be activated after we have entered their respective calculation mode. So now, I want to activate the base calculation menu. So if I want to activate this, then I first have to enter the base n calculation mode. So I tap on mode and then I choose option 4, which is base n. And if I want to activate the mode which is related to this particular calculation mode, then I simply use the combination shift and 3. Why? Because the shift and the base are of the same color. So I tap on shift, then I tap on 3. So have we seen that another menu has appeared? Which means all the menus relating to the alternate function keys from 1 up to 9 can only be activated after we have entered their respective calculation mode. So we have basically discussed about all the menus on a calculator. So in the part 3 of this video, we will be diving deeper into the variables on the calculator. My name is Larteen and I hope this video was very helpful. If you know you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel and stay tuned because there will be more amazing content like this. I hope we had an amazing time together. Thank you and have a nice day.